Hey, what's up guys? This is Dread from the Trinity of LIFT bringing you updated Satellarknights. Start off with the main deck. You're gonna want, of course, triple Deneb. It's the searcher of the deck, Rhoda in monster form. You're gonna need 3. Don't skimp out on these because these allow you to stack your hand with all the other Satellarknights, which I'll get into when I actually get to the cards themselves. She's essential to all your plays because she's a Rhoda. So when you have 3 of these, you're constantly summoning them from grave or hand, and you're just loading your hand with a lot of advantageous stuff, plusing like crazy. Next, triple Altair to complement the triple Denebs. Altair is like Coach Soldier Wolf Bark, basically. Summon a Tellarknight monster from the grave in defense. Except, the one thing you got to keep in mind with Altair is that if you use his effect, only Tellarknights can attack. So you can only attack with your XYZs and the actual monsters themselves. Next, double Vega. You can run 3 if you want. I was contemplating running 3, but 2 provides like options, whereas only 1 would be just like 1 Vega and done. Vega, you normal her, and you can special a Tellarknight from hand. So the usual combo is you're gonna go Vega, Altair, and then Deneb from grave. And that usually will get you a Tellarknight XYZ. Very little effort. You make Deltaros and Triver. To round out the Tellarknight monsters, they're all 1-ofs. And I'll briefly go over their effects right now. You have Rigel. Rigel is kind of like Rush Recklessly. When he's summoned, you can add attack to a Tellarknight monster, 500 to be exact. But at the end phase of the turn you add the attack, the monster dies. The main thing I use Rigel for is to break locks, like vanities. First of all, he's pretty beefy by himself. He's 19k, or not 19k, 1900. He's 1900, so that runs over a lot of things that your opponent can normal summon. Plus, with his effect, he goes to 2.4. That's enough to run over a lot of things like Winda. Winda really screws this deck. I hate Winda. I despise it. So Rigel just allows you, okay, normal, run into Winda, and then Winda's gone. Next, Unukohai. Unukohai is Foolish Burial for Tellarknights. When he's summoned, send a Tellarknight from deck to grave. Combos really well with Altair, because you can say you have an Altair in hand, but no Deneb. Summon Unukohai, send Deneb to grave, and then next turn you can just Altair Deneb, and then go off of that. Next is Alsham. Alsham, he's kind of like Cowboy, but he does more damage. So when he's summoned, you just do straight 1,000 life points to your opponent as damage directly. You can steal games with it. You can set up, like basically it extends your Cowboy range. So instead of only being able to Cowboy at 800, you can Cowboy at 1800 because you can Altair Alsham, make a Cowboy, they're dead. So just keep that in mind if you're playing Satellarknights. A lot of the time, if you fall into 1800, you pretty much lose. Lastly, for the Tellarknight 1-ofs, is Sirius. He's Pot of Avarice. Take 5 Tellarknights, and this includes your XYZs. You can shuffle them back into the deck and draw a card. He's mainly for late game sustain, because you run not too many monsters in this deck. So if you get into the longer games, you're kind of going to start running low on resources, and he kind of helps you recycle. Now to get into the last of the monsters. These are not Tellarknights, but it's light support. 2 Honest. I run 2 mainly because you can in this format, but because also to help break locks and steal games. Tellarknights themselves are really weak. Like, if you look at Sirius and Deneb, most of them aren't over 17. So Honest helps supplement that by just, you can just ram into things carelessly. That wraps it up for the monsters. Can go into spells. Spells, triple Rhoda, staple of any warrior deck. It's great. It has a lot of consistency because basically with the triple Deneb and the triple Rhoda, you have 6 consistency cards in the deck. So that's 6 draws that you can get that are like wonderful for you. Another 3 of I run, most people run, triple MST, back row hate. Self-explanatory, really. Next, kind of one of my personal preference things, I run 3 Chalice. Why Chalice instead of Breakthrough is because I don't like Denko. This deck in itself hates Denko. Denko and Trap Stun. You can't Trap Stun a Chalice, and you can also use Chalice during your turn if it's not set. So then you can like Chalice a Denko and then start activating all your traps and shit. It's really a matter of preference. Like, if you know your opponent's not running Denko, or you're not, like, you really don't honestly give a shit about Denko, you could run Breakthroughs. Breakthroughs honestly have more utility because of their Grave effect, but that's just my preference. Next, the 2 Dark Holes. Satellarknights, personally me too, I don't give a shit about nuking my board. So Dark Hole, 2 of them works great. Especially since all the Satellarknight XYZs float somewhat. The last spells are 1-ofs. You got Raigeki, Soul Charge, and Book of Moon. Book of Moon helps you get over a lot of things. Simply because you just put it face down and you can run it over. Soul Charge works great in this deck, especially with World Superstars coming out. You're gonna get Heroic Champion Rangamian. That's an awesome card. Like, especially since with Satellarknights, you have what is Cold Soldier Wolfbark, which Altair, so you're most of the time not gonna need to Soul Charge for as much as you think. And Raigeki, board nuke, really, it's a good card. Don't see why you wouldn't run it. So to start off, traps, done with the spells. Signature traps of the deck, the counter trap that everyone loves, Stellar Nova Alpha. Run 3 of this. Please run 3 of this. Even if it really is expensive right now, do yourself a favor, run 3. Because just having this straight out negation for almost anything except summons, is really useful. And the cost really isn't that like, it's not that derogatory, or it's not that negative of a cost, considering that you can easily get Satellarknights out of grave, or say you could tribute an XYZ and then the XYZs just float. Another 3 of trap, Call the Hunted. You could kind of switch it out with Oasis of Dragon Souls, or you could run this with Oasis of Dragon Souls, but I just prefer triple Call. Call is great because all the Satellarknights activate their effects when they're summoned, period. Normal summon, flip summon, special summon, from grave, anywhere. As long as they're summoned, they gain their effects. And triggering more Denebs and more Vegas, more Altairs is always good. Getting towards the end, we have Double Mirror Force, 2 of. Mirror Force is really helpful this format, especially with all the fat boards that people make. Like, you play Yosenju, P-Forts. If you can stop that rush, like that huge ass stacked board that they have, then that's like, they have to recover from that. They have to stack their hand up all over again, and it's really just more advantageous to you. But a lot of the time they have stuff to counter it. Oh, it's still good to have these Mirror Forces. Just be a little smart in your use with them. And the last traps of Bottomless, Compulse, Torrential. Basically shit to help break locks. Compulse, like, cause, well, yeah, Satellarknights in general, they hate Jin Lock. I hate Jin Lock. A lot of decks do. And Satellarknights have a problem getting over it, which is why I run a lot of board nuke cards. It's mainly Torrential, Dark Hole, Raigeki, all of that crap. I run tons of board nuke. Compulse too. Compulse is kind of more staple-ish, so I guess, I mean, if you have room for it, you should run it. Bottomless is self-explanatory. It's just monster removal. And with a lot of stuff nowadays, it prevents them from hitting graves, so they don't get effect as well. So be a little considerate of your usage. Let's get into the extra. Starting off, the big boss monster that just came out with Secrets of Eternity that I love, and all Burning Abyss, Badolchi players despise. Satellarknight Constellar Diamond. So his effects, he's got a really lengthy effect, but I'll explain. Neither player can send cards from deck to grave. That means no milling, no foolish, no Shadal effects, no Shadal fusions. So basically, if you're playing Shaddolls, just get this crap out immediately because they can't fusion from deck. Because Diamond specifically states that they can't. And any card that returns from the grave to the hand is banished instead. Madolches, because I think it's Ticket or Chateau, whichever one is their go back to, yeah, Chateau. The one that makes them go back to hand when they're sent to grave. It's not optional, so they're just gonna get banished. You run Madolches over, they're banished. They're all banished. And his detach effect is the one that really screws over a lot of decks. Whenever a dark monster activates its effect, you can just detach, negate, and destroy. So a lot of the Shaddolls, you can't stop Nephilim because Nephilim's light. Can't stop Dante, but you can stop a ton of things with Diamond. Diamond just screws over a lot of decks in meta today. And also, because he has Constellar in his name, that brings up another, like, I guess you could say card combo that I love to run with this deck. I'll get into that when I break down the rest of the extra deck. Next is another Tellarknight XYZ, Satellarknight Deltaros. Deltaros is awesome. He's the original boss monster for Satellarknights. As long as he has a material, your opponent can't activate stuff when you summon. That's really good because then you can get off all your Denebs, your Vegas, all whatever Tellarknight monster effects you want to get off because they can't solemn it. They can't break through off the summon because the effects are on summon. No chalice, nothing. Excuse me. And his detach effect is just simple destruction. Detach, pop any card on the field. And when he's destroyed, you can summon a Tellarknight from deck. So it's a lot more, like, it's a lot smarter and beneficial to make Deltaros in the early game, because then you can get your Tellarknights out of deck. So you make a Deltaros, the Deltaros dies, or you alpha and you tribute the Deltaros, and then you can just pull more Tellarknights out of your deck, and then slowly by slowly start fueling your grave to get your Call the Hunted plays and shit. Next two Tellarknight XYZs are Triver. Triver introduced, I forget what pack, or I don't know, messed it up. But Triver is just great. Triver is, whenever he's summoned, everything goes back to hand. Spells, traps, monsters, everything. And it combos really well with his detach effect, which is just force your opponent to discard. Just make your opponent go neg. Making this a lot of the time will just screw people over because, especially if they stack their hand with a lot of useful things, because then you have a greater chance of hitting something that they'll care about. Be a little cautious when you're playing stuff like Shawl and Dark World, because if you do make them discard and you hit a Shaddol or you hit a Dark World, it's not going to be fun. Because they all get their effects when they're discarded. Dark World even more so because it was your card effect and not your opponent's, because they get extras. Let's get into the rest of the extra deck. It's all like one of utility monsters, Rhapsody and Berserk. Rhapsody is awesome. You can just banish stuff from grave. Basically, like if you manage to kill a Dante and they don't float the Dante somehow against you, if you're playing Burning Abyss, just banish Dante. You can banish your opponent's Shaddol fusions if you can catch them in grave. Awesome. And also, there's a secondary effect where you can attach him as like a equip card to your XYZs, which will usually be your Tellarknight stuff. Works well, especially since a lot of time you'll kind of have the back row space to afford that. I do. Next, we have Arc. Arc is kind of self-explanatory. Just get over a big monster. You can stall with it. And it's gotten a little bit cheaper with the reprint. Castel is the next one. Castel is another like good card to just get over monsters. It's basically like another Compulse. And not much to say there. You have Exciton Knight. Exciton Knight is kind of like your last resort card. You can just make him sit on it, constantly nuke board all day, and sometimes it's really hard to get over an Exciton Knight that's just sitting on board. Next two, we have Warrior deck staples for me. I run these in every warrior deck I do have because they're just a lot of offensive pressure. Excalibur is he basically just makes himself huge. Like 4K attack is hard to kill. So, and you can do it during your opponent's turn as well. So you can get over, I forget what it's called, Cleefort, whatever that huge ass Cleefort monster is. You can just make this crash into it, and it's not there anymore. Blade Armor Ninja attacks twice. You can basically hit through set cards and just clear board. It does a lot of damage. That's pretty much what they're for. Karen Gorgon. Karen Gorgon is this kind of stally card that you'll just sit on. Because of his redirect effect, like, you can just make your opponent's cards just miss their intended target. And Paladynamo. Paladynamo is, he's just straight up monster negation. You can make a monster useless with his 2 detach effect. And he also has a pretty useful secondary effect, where when he dies, you can draw a card. Like, for me, Paladynamo is extremely useful. Just say your opponent, like, seriously banks on one monster carrying them, you can just Paladynamo it. Like, say it's a Beals, you can just turn Beals into a worthless 0 attack piece of crap. Because his effect's negated, so he doesn't gain any more attack. You can just have Beals doing nothing, and then you can kill it. Also works on, like, Utopias, too, because Utopia has that whole negate an attack. Well, you can just negate his effect and kill him. And the last extra deck monster, and the one that combos really well with Diamond, is Constellar Omega. So his effect is when Constellar, like when you detach a material, all Constellar monsters you control are unaffected by spell and traps. And this is a quick effect, so you can do it during your opponent's turn. So if you take Diamond right here, he has Constellar in his name. So technically he's affected by Omega's effect because he has Constellar in his name. So a lot of times what I do against like Shaddoll, Madolchi, Burning Abyss, any dark deck, or deck that mills, like even Lightsworn too, you just make this board right here, and it's so hard to get over because there's the constant threat of Honest on Omega, and the fact that you can't just Raigeki or nuke this board. Because these 2 monsters, like, Omega just keeps your opponent from doing stuff. And, well, not Omega, Diamond. And then Omega protects it. It's even better if you actually do have an Honest in hand, because then you can just, like, drop Honest, now what? So this is kind of like, I wouldn't say it's a lock. It's just really freaking hard to get overboard. And with that, that about wraps up the Satellarknight deck profile. I probably might bring you guys Star Seraph Satellarknights when I actually do open up my World Superstars pack, and if I can pull a decent amount of stuff out of it, like Rangamiant and everything else I want. But for now, yeah. Thanks for watching. Like, favorite, comment, subscribe. And I don't know if there's anything that you guys think I could improve the deck somehow. I'd be more than happy to listen to the feedback. Thanks for watching. Later.